I accidentally invented a method, I think. So, quick context before we start. If you're new to this PhD project, my PhD project, State of Killers, isn't just a book. Part of it is something I'm calling shorts, which are essentially short-form narrative pieces built around real locations from South Australian criminal cases, combining image, text, and reflection. And they're designed to live on platforms like X and Insta and Blue Sky and Threads and whatever other one comes on in the next 2 years to bump one of those off. So, instead of just writing about crime, I'm testing how those stories are told in the same environments where people already consume them. And this is the important part. The shorts aren't promotional. They're part of how the research actually happens. Now, that was the plan. What's happening now is slightly more complicated. Firstly, where I've been. So I haven't done one of these for a while, which in PhD terms means one of two things. Either I've been wildly productive, or I've been sitting in my Morpheus chair, staring into middle distance, thinking about narrative structure and whether time is real. It's actually both. The last few weeks have been not writing in the traditional sense, but working out what this project actually is. Yes. I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's not. Because at PhD level, it's not enough to say, I'm writing a true crime book. You have to be able to say what kind of true crime, what it does differently, how it generates knowledge, and why that matters. And that's where things started to shift. So I had a conversation with Dr. Beasley, that's Carolyn Beasley, my supervisor, and it was one of those meetings where you go in thinking, I've got this reasonably under control, and then you walk out thinking, oh heck, I have to define everything, because the question wasn't what are you making, it was what is true crime, where does your work sit in it, and how is it different? Which is a much more uncomfortable question, because it forces you to realise you're not just writing within a genre. You're either reinforcing it or interrogating it. And at the moment, true crime as a genre tends to do a few things. It tells a story. It centres the crime. It often creates the offender. It moves toward resolution, and it presents itself as factual even when it's heavily constructed. You see, I realised I'm not doing that. Not at all. What State of Killers is actually doing is something else entirely. It's not just what happened. It's how was this told? Who told it? What was left out? And how do we remember it the way we do? So instead of telling crime stories, I'm examining how crime becomes narrative, how narrative becomes memory, and how both of those are shaped by institutions, media, and proximity. And that's where the shorts suddenly stopped being an extra content and moved central. You see, now, this is where things got interesting, because we started talking about images. Not as decoration, not as cover art or those pictures in the middle, but as research objects. Now, there's a proper academic language for this. Visual methodologies, image-based research, and photo voice, right? Got that? Visual methodologies, image-based research, photo voice. All things I definitely nodded along to like I fully understood in the moment. Well, I sort of did. But you see, the core of it, it's pretty simple. An image isn't neutral. It carries meaning and it frames your interpretation. And in the context of crime, images are the most powerful. Locations are powerful. Absence is powerful. So when I take an image of a road or a house or a coastline, I'm not just showing a place, I'm showing where something happened, what remains, and what was forgotten. And when you combine that with narrative, you've got something else. So now every short follows a structure. And this is where it becomes method, not content. Each one moves through the image, where it happened, the fact, what happened, the true crime version, how it's actually told, the media version, how it was framed, the disruption, what's missing, and number 6, the reflection, where I sit in it. And that last one's important because I'm not outside this. I grew up here. I remember these cases. I remember how they were talked about. So now the project becomes not just analysis, but positioned analysis, which is academically useful. Could be seen as emotionally questionable, but we move with it. And now, here's where this goes even further. Because these shorts aren't just sitting in a thesis. They're being distributed through X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and whatever platform is good at the time. Which means the research is happening in public, in real time, and in the same spaces where true crime is consumed. So instead of standing outside media and analysing it, I'm entering it and testing what happens when you disrupt narrative in the same space it's usually reinforced. And that's the key difference. Why does it matter? Because traditional true crime gives you a version, asks you to accept it, and often simplifies complexity. What I'm trying to do is slow that down, complicate it, and expose the structure behind. And the shorts are perfect for that because they're compressed, direct, and slightly uncomfortable. They don't resolve anything. They sit with it. Also, this is the point in the PhD where you realise you're not just writing, you're building a methodology, you're defending a methodology, and occasionally you're inventing one by accident. And that's exciting and slightly terrifying. So where's this going? Right, so the plan now is build structured shorts for each case, test them across platforms, refine the framework, and feed all that back into the exegesis. So the artifact becomes not just the book, but the system, the outputs, as well as the process of getting there. Yeah, that's where we're at. I set out to write a true crime project, and I seem to have accidentally built a visual narrative research method that lives on social media, which seems like something I'm going to have to justify very carefully. very, very carefully as I go on. I'll deal with that later. Next step, actually make some shorts. I'll see you next time.